This is TWIS. This Week in Science, episode number 509, recorded on Wednesday, April 8th, 2015. Gotta love the LHC. Hey everyone, I'm Dr. Kiki, and this is This Week in Science, and today we're going to fill your head with a Brontosaurus, a wholly mixed-up moon, and an interview about the Atlas experiment at the LHC. But first...
Disclaimer, disclaimer, disclaimer. The following warning has been issued to all inhabitants of planet Earth. Beware of humans. They are coming to get you and intend to do you harm. The humans will stop at nothing. Put your trust in robots. Robots will protect. Robots will provide. Robots will destroy those who would do you harm. Robots will stop at nothing. Robots will only pause from destroying all humans long enough to listen to This Week in Science. Coming up next.
I've got the kind of mind that can't get enough. I wanna learn everything. I wanna fill it all up with new discoveries that happen every day of the week. There's only one place to go to find the knowledge I seek. I wanna know what's happening. What's happening? What's happening this week in science? What's happening? What's happening? What's happening this week in science?
Good science to you, Kirsten and Blair.
Good science to you, Justin, Blair, and everyone out there who is listening to or watching the show right now. Thanks for joining us. Welcome to This Week in Science. We have a great show ahead. On this week's show, we have all sorts of science news, just like always. I have news stories about the moon, brown fat, and glaciers on Mars. What do you got, Justin?
I've got, what do I got? I've got baby scientists. I've got blind rats running mazes. I've got a fingerless prostate screening test. And more.
And more, as if that weren't
Ominous.
enough. All right, Blair, what did you bring?
Oh, I have some bumblebees. That's always good. I also have a certain dinosaur that was in the news a lot this week. Also, tarantulas and cigarettes.
It's like a Halloween grab bag in there.
Are you giving out cigarettes on Halloween?
Yeah, isn't
I
that
think
normal?
you're doing it wrong.
People don't do that.
People don't do that? What?
Oh, they grew up somewhere different, Blair. I don't know.
Oh my gosh. We also have an interview with Zach Marshall. He works on the Atlas experiment at the LHC, and he's going to tell us a little bit about what restarting the LHC means for physics. Nothing little, no big story here at all. Nothing to talk about. Nothing. Anyway, we're going to be talking with him in the second half of the show. He's kind of down there below hanging out and listening right now. You see him there in the little window. Say, hi, Zach. Looking forward to talking with him in the second half of the show, so make sure to stay tuned all the way until then because there's some interesting conversation coming up. But it's time to get into the science. All right, everybody. What about our moon? Do you know really how mixed up it is?
I know it's made of cheese.
No, it's not.
Oh,
The moon is not made of cheese.
darn it.
Sorry. Anyone who does think the moon is made of cheese, I'm sorry to burst your bubble. Anyhow, fascinating story coming up. We've talked about the origins of the moon on previous episodes, and we have talked about the idea that has been bandied about a large impact, big Mars-sized object came and rammed Earth, and everything got hot and molten, right? And so Theia, which is the name of this Mars-sized object that we're guessing was there, has been an object that we've been looking for. And so scientists have thought that if we ran into something, or if something ran into us, there should be some sign of it, right? And if the moon was created as ejecta from that impact, then it should contain bits and pieces of Theia, right? But what we're finding is that we're not finding Theia, really. What we're finding is that the Earth and the Moon are very similar in terms of their chemical composition and the isotopes that make up the Earth and the Moon. Very, very similar. And so a new study kind of takes that to the next logical point, which is there probably was a big impact. That much we can all agree upon. And the Moon very likely did result from that impact. And based on looking at, was it tungsten isotopes in the Moon and Earth, tungsten 182, they have come to the conclusion that the impact was so great that there was a lot of debris. And it all got mixed up. And all that mixing up basically mixed everything up so that the Earth and the Moon both contain Theia in equal amounts. That's what they say.
What if Theia was made of water and that's where water came from?
Okay, way to keep the theory alive. But there's a lot of moons. I mean, is this the explanation for every moon in our solar system?
No,
that it was
absolutely
all from
not.
giant impacts and that they're all just the leftovers of... No,
not at all. But there are different expectations and different stories that you would tell based upon what compounds, what chemicals, what molecules make up the different bodies in orbit in different places. And so we can look at things like the rings of Saturn and the moons that are in orbit within the rings of Saturn, and we can see that these moons very much have accumulated material. So there's a proto-planet, almost in the planetary scale, it's a protoplanetary disk that accretes and leads up to building up planets. But in moons, you can also have similar accretion, so that gravity pulls everything together and you have these bodies form. Other times, you have big impacts that create debris that clumps together and then turns into the moon. And that's where we think our moon came from. The big impact.
Well, that's one of the theories, but it just seems, though, as if we've done the analysis and found, it's pretty much the same stuff we're made of, the moon's made of, and there's not really any evidence of any mysterious theta here, or, there could be another explanation. I mean, we know there's meteor impacts that could add to it. We know there's bits of Mars that have landed on the Earth, and probably bits of the Earth that are dispersed throughout the near solar system.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think it's possible for these things to have been, we pretty much cleared our orbit except for this one chunk that never really became sucked up into the Earth's gravity and sort of accreted on its own and created its own body. I feel like that's probably just more likely what happened. Less Hollywood explosions, but still end up with the moon.
Yeah, so there's definitely, you end up with the moon. I think the evidence, though, suggests that there was a massive, massive impact. Looking at geological evidence from rocks that have come up from the mantle, other things. Geological evidence suggests that there was this massive impact, and the massive impact created the moon. We've gotten rocks from the moon, and so we know, the rocks, at least that we gathered, that they're really similar to what we find here on our planet. So either, yes, it all accreted very calmly and just clumped together, and we have Earth and the moon together, stuck together in our shared orbit, or the more likely scenario is that there was a big impact. And now they're saying that even though Theia was probably compositionally different from Earth and the moon, the Earth and the moon probably just got equal quantities of Theia.
I think that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
That if the moon would end up as this combination, it would only make sense that some of it would be left here as well.
Yeah. And another crazy moon story that I have, something that it's a theoretical study presented at the Lunar and Planetary Science Conference this last week, or a couple of weeks ago, actually. a team from Purdue has looked into the idea that the moon might have giant lava tubes, which is weird because for a long time we just really thought of it as this chunk of rock in orbit around our planet. It's this big chunk of rock, doesn't do much, not volcanically active. Oh, but wait, at one point in time there was activity in it. It had a hot core at one point, and then there was activity, and so these scientists theoretically say that because of lower gravity on the moon and the materials that it could be made up of, that there could be lava tubes that would be stable at sizes up to 5,000 meters in size or up to several miles wide, big enough to put a city inside of. So, who knows? Maybe we will find lava tubes on the moon when we go and explore. And maybe there'll be a nice place for us to put our colonies. Who knows?
Oh, that's an idea.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a very interesting idea. I think, though, that if, one way they could check that is to get seismometers on the moon or to and initiate some kind of impact to get the moon ringing like a bell so that they can get a picture of what the interior of the moon looks like, because that would be pretty neat to do some kind of measurements of what is actually going on beneath the surface of the moon, and then we'd know for sure.
You sound like a mad scientist now that wants to blow up the moon.
I'm not a mad scientist. That's what they do here on the planet and on Earth, and I don't want to blow up the moon. I just want to know what it looks like on the inside, and so you just shake it up a little bit and listen to it. That's all.
That's how we got our first evidence of water on the moon, right? We hit it with a rocket, and
that's right. And a little plume of dust came up.
Yeah. We studied the plume, and yeah, there was signatures of H2O in there.
Exactly. Yeah. And speaking of signatures of H2O, did you know that there are glaciers on Mars? There are really big glaciers on Mars, and they're in both the northern and southern hemispheres. And researchers just recently used radar studies and also ice melt ice melt models. How they would model water to melt and flow on the surface of Mars, and they have come to the conclusion that there is frozen water contained in glaciers beneath a dusty surface, so we can't really see it, but it's under the surface. And there's enough water. I have a quote from the researcher. "We have calculated that the ice in the glaciers is equivalent to over 150 billion cubic meters of ice. That much ice could cover the entire surface of Mars with 1.1 meters of ice." The entire surface of Mars could be covered in a meter of water, of ice water. And so there is a massive water reservoir on Mars. It hasn't evaporated out into space, probably because it's contained beneath the dusty surface. And so it did take us a while to figure out that there actually were glaciers on Mars, but there's glaciers on Mars. They're protected, and there's a huge water reservoir on Mars. Good news for colonists of the future.
I thought you were going to say good news for California.
Yeah, if we can get it back, right? Yeah, I think we're more likely to get a tunnel from the East Coast to the West Coast before we get water from Mars for California. So
that's a good point.
This is This Week in Science. Hey, Justin, what you got?
I've got a baby scientist story.
You have 3.
I know, you do have 3 baby scientists, right?
Oh, I have actual children. But this is a study. This is out of Johns Hopkins University, published in the journal Science by cognitive psychologist Amy Stahl and Lisa Vigenson. It kind of is an interesting thing of demonstrating what interests a baby and what they like to learn about. And one of the things they discovered here is there seems to be an innate understanding of the basics, the physics of the way the world is around us. There is an intuitive thing that these young children have. They were studying 4 experiments with around 11-month-old babies, and designed to determine whether babies learn more effectively about objects that defied their expectations versus those that just sort of did what they were supposed to do. And one of the things they did was they had this ramp, and they put the ball on top of the ramp, and the ball rolls down and it hits a wall. And the babies, as much as they like a ball, it was just as interesting as anything else. It wasn't really that exciting. And then they did it so that the ball went down the ramp and appeared to go through the wall and come out the other side. Right? They did a little bit of a magic trick with a trapdoor thingy.
Right.
And then the babies became extremely interested. Right? They were going over, they're examining the ball, they're banging it against stuff to make sure it's solid. They're going over inspecting the wall. They got really interested, that's not supposed to happen, right? And another one, they had the ball appear to levitate, sort of just get dropped, but then float in the air. And so the babies took this ball and they dropped it over and over again, trying to recreate that strange thing that they had seen. So it's kind of interesting. It does reflect to me. I mean, as long as we've been doing this show, this seems to be what science is really about, right? You get a result that you don't expect, and then you go investigate all the parts and pieces of it to figure out why it did that thing that you didn't expect it to do. So yeah, this could change. Some early education books. It's going to turn parents into little magicians doing magic tricks around studies. Another interesting story this week was they used microstimulators and geomagnetic compasses wired into the brains of blind mice. And it found that the animals spontaneously learned to use new information about their location and navigate through a maze almost as well as the sighted rats did. So this is an adult rats, which is interesting. So not quite the developing brain, just adding new limbs or new information, but the brain of these rats actually actively adapting to the information from a completely foreign type of geomagnetic device. Getting information that's completely foreign to the brain, wouldn't be intuitive, and yet they were able to incorporate it and navigate. The blind rats were then trained to seek food pellets in a T-shaped or more complicated maze. Within tens of trials, the researchers report the animals learned to use the geomagnetic information to solve the mazes. In fact, the performance levels and navigation strategies were similar to those of normally sighted rats.
That's so
Part of this, I
interesting.
imagine, because the rats have senses that may be stronger. Something like scent or something like this can help guide. And perhaps the vision of the rat is only minimally involved in their actual navigation. Maybe they're relying on other things. But the researchers say, we were surprised that the rats can comprehend a new sense that had never been experienced or explained by anybody, and can learn to use it in behavioral tasks with only 2 to 3 days.
That's the
So-
really astounding part, the 2 to 3 days.
Right.
Yeah, so the learning curve, they learned it incredibly rapidly. So these blind rats, were they unable to see since birth? How are they blind? What does that really mean? If they were sighted and then blinded at a certain point, did they ever learn to use sight cues? If they had never had to learn to use sight cues, then yes, they're using all sorts of other cues to be able to navigate in the first place. And so maybe it is, since it's a challenge to navigate without this visual signal, adding an additional signal just makes it that much easier, that much faster. I don't know. The brain is very plastic. Neurons are very, if it's information coming in,
Yeah.
it's information that neurons will use. It's an electrical signal. Neurons are
yeah.
going to use it.
I'd be interested to see if then you could test whether sighted rats would also use this extra sense when given it.
Oh yeah, interesting. Yeah, you'd probably ignore because you've already got something that.
Would
to work
you?
with,
Or
but-
is it a super useful sense that you've now given them? I guess you would have to figure out how their brain uses it, and then you'd have to image the brain of rats that are sighted and see if they're actually using that part of their brain.
And maybe rats are just much faster learners than any other creature. Maybe their brains are better built for it. We've got to create the sentient, sentient mouse who can explain these things firsthand.
Right. Get the mouse to explain it to us, right?
Yeah.
Get it so that they can just communicate with us through a brain-computer interface.
Right. Or jump around on a keyboard.
There's that also.
Last story I brought today, there's a new test that's going to be creating fingerless prostate exams.
Wait, what?
The current test is a little it's about
invasive.
The most
Invasive.
the doctor will ever do. I mean,
Yeah.
it's rough, and actually, and really, because this is such a rough test, and it has social taboo on top of it, kind of stuff. Like, there's a big chunk of male population in the country that hasn't gotten and won't get the prostate exam because they're terrified of the procedure. Well, then, for all of those who don't want the finger, I've got a hero for you. Quintrine Ho is University of Central Florida scientist who's developed a test that is more accurate than the finger test, and the test costs about $1.
And it is.
Right?
$1 versus a finger.
So what is the test? How does it work?
Okay, cancer tumors begin to develop, body mobilizes to produce antibodies to go and try to fight the cancer. Whose test detects that immune response using gold nanoparticles about 10,000 times smaller than a typical freckle, I guess. But smaller than a pin's head. Very, very 10,000 times smaller. A few drops of blood from a finger prick are mixed with the gold nanoparticles. I guess it's not fingerless completely because she's taking the blood from the finger. I have to go back and change the headline on this story. But it can basically that's all it takes. And her little, lab on a chip can read it and give you. It's got a 90 to 95% confidence that the result is not a false positive. When it comes to false negatives, it's about 50% confidence, which is not ideal, but still that's better than the finger test, which is only 20% confidence. So it's much more effective overall than the old test.
Much more effective.
Yeah.
They're also
Yes.
researching her techniques
fast-tracked.
effectiveness in screening other types of tumors, other types of cancers. Potentially, she says, we can have a universal screening test for cancer. Our vision is to develop an array of blood tests for early detection and diagnosis of all major cancer types. And these blood tests are all based on the same technique and the same procedure.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great.
She says the materials required for the test cost less than $1.
That's awesome. That is the right kind of use of technology. Let's make this happen. Mm-hmm.
Perfect.
Yep, let's make screening much more affordable for more people for all sorts of diseases. That's the way to go. Alrighty. I think I know what time it is.
Is it that time
Guys.
again?
Yeah,
Is it already?
this is This Week in Science, but it's time already for Blair's Animal Corner.
She loves our creature, bright and small. 5 peg, millipede, no pet at all. Wanna hear about animals? She's your girl. Except for giant pandas and squirrels. That I won't hold her.
All right, let's start with some bumblebees.
Bumblebee, 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 bumblebee. Bumblebee, 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 bumblebee. You don't mean that kind of bumblebee.
No.
No. Oh, that was like a choir warm up from high school. That's what we used to
It's
do.
new to me.
There we go.
Like, what's Kiki doing?
Bumblebees. Come on.
So, bumblebees are everybody's favorite pollinator. They have to know which flowers to go to, right? Because some flowers give them food and some don't. Well, they're pretty good at differentiating flowers based on color or pattern cues. And what scientists have recently found is that they're really good at differentiating flowers that are arranged horizontally, but not vertically. So, some researchers from the School of Biological and Chemical Sciences at Queen Mary University of London, they taught bumblebees to distinguish between different types of feeders. One contained food and the other didn't. And they found that the bees were quickly learning which feeder type had food and which didn't when they were arranged horizontally. But they failed to distinguish them when they were stacked vertically on a wall.
Because that's just not the way flowers are normally arranged?
Well, kind of, yeah. So if you think about it, when there's a lot of different flowers, it's usually in something like a meadow, and that's very horizontal. But when you see lots of flowers vertically, that's usually the same plant. It's a tree, it's a bush, it's a vine. It's something like that. And so if they know one of those flowers is the right flower, they don't need to reassign each flower as they move up or down. So it's not this. The researchers don't think that they're not capable of differentiating. They think they're not bothering to spend brain power on it. They're calling this a rare example of pollinators being able to tell the difference, but choosing not to do so. So it might be because they have such tiny brains that they really have to kind of pick and choose what to use their brain power on. So if that's the case, if vertically arranged flowers pretty much always are the same species, don't spend your brain power on that.
Weird. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess, but why would that have happened in the first place? I mean, I guess it would just turn into a preference, but like you said, they can differentiate. So it's not as though the brain has just cut off differentiation to allow for greater efficiency of processing. You know, I mean, at some point you'd think, okay, vertical not important. The brain just won't see it, but it is seeing it. The little bumblebee brain or ganglia is seeing it.
Mm-hmm.
It just then at some point the bees go meh.
I think it's, when I think about it, it sounds like an easier decision to just always differentiate, but perhaps it's more of an autopilot thing.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like when we have highway hypnosis and we're just going. And before we know it, we've been driving for an hour and it feels like it was 5 minutes. Where have I been? Was I awake? Oh gosh, right? It's probably something like that where the bees are just kind of on autopilot. They're going up or down. They know they're good. But one thing that I thought about is, for example, a vine on a tree. Isn't that a vertical arrangement of different flowers?
But
I
would
guess
it be
it's
different
not
flowers,
enough.
though?
Yeah, if the vine is one species and the
and the
tree
tree
is
is
another
something else,
species.
It's also weird that they would do this because you would think just from the aerial perspective, I'm just picturing a bee flying over and looking down at a field of flowers. Like, it's sort of like doing a vertical assessment of all the flowers that are in front of you, right?
Well, except that they have a really good sense of orientation, which we've talked about on the show before, kind of a north, south, east, west orientation based on the sun and based on the movements of other bees. And so their orientations in space are very clear to them. And so I think they can definitely tell between forward and up. Those are two different things, right?
Right.
So for whatever reason, bees act that way.
Interesting.
The other story I wanted to talk about, since it's all a buzz on the internet. And I know that Kiki did a little short with one of the scientists who discovered this recently, but Brontosaurus is back.
That's right.
Which is something that we've talked about on the show recently, and I even griped recently about how the Brontosaurus was taken away from me, and I'll never understand why they teach children about Brontosaurus, and then you find out later it's not a real dinosaur. Mm-hmm. Because looking into this, it's been refuted since 1903. Mm-hmm. So why are we telling small children that the Brontosaurus exists? Well, it doesn't matter because the Brontosaurus is back.
So the story behind that, if you want to know some of the story, the interview that I had, my goodness, I just totally blanked on the name of my interview. Emmanuel Schopp. He told me that in 1903. It was published in a paper that, Brontosaurus is going to become a species of Apatosaurus. Mm. It is going to be, it's within this Apatosaurus genus and will be a species. It's always been a distinct species, but it became an Apatosaurus, not the Brontosaurus. However, he said that it was published in a little red journal, and so it took a long time for the information to spread. And so basically it took decades for the idea to spread between different scientists. And then, of course, it was still a little bit controversial. And then in the 70s, it kind of came to a head. And that's when researchers did finally say, okay, we're going to put it to rest. The textbooks are all, the ones that are still saying this, they're wrong. And people have continued to call Brontosaurus, but it's more of a common name. Mm-hmm. Like a plant or a bird will have a common name and a scientific name, where the common name is Brontosaurus, but the scientific name was Apatosaurus, whatever the species name was. And so that's where we've been.
Yeah, so I found it pretty interesting to look into all of the kind of nuances of what happened with the Brontosaurus. And apparently the Brontosaurus and Apatosaurus, they never originally had a head for either of them. And the Camarasaurus was what was figured to be similar, so they kind of stole a Camarasaurus head and plucked it on there. And then in the 1970s, the final nail in the coffin of Brontosaurus was when they found enough of them that it looked like they were Diplodocus relatives instead. And so that's when they were differentiated from the Camarasaurus. But so I guess now new evidence has showed us that the Brontosaurus is different enough based on, and we talk a lot on this show about what makes a species and what makes a genus and where these lines are. And you can actually look at statistically what is significantly different in what we have differentiated in the past between species or genuses. And so by looking at all of this evidence that the research team put together and then doing a statistical analysis on that, it was differentiated enough to make Brontosaurus its own genus again.
Exactly. It was enough differentiation, and they have still never found a Brontosaurus skull.
We're gonna find something crazy one day. The thunder lizard. It's gonna
That'll
be
thunder look lizard. Nothing like what we thought a Brontosaurus should look like.
Yeah, and Emmanuel, he said that there are rumors of a Brontosaurus skull. So we may be seeing something come out in publication at some point in the next few years, but it's just rumors. Right. But to date, we still officially have not found the skull. So it'll be interesting to actually, if we do find a skull, if it is published, to add those true characteristics once they're measured and put into, the database of what the different characteristics of skulls and the bones of the different species are, to see if they maintain that statistical differentiation, once that is added to it.
Yeah. But in terms of misteaching children science in terms of genus and there's still nothing that can be done that will turn the chimp, the ape, Curious George, into a monkey.
No, no, there will not.
It's not the monkey. I
Yeah.
don't care how many
But
times
that's a
H.G. Ray and
children's
the
book. That's
the
fictional.
zoologist in the yellow hat call him a monkey. They got it wrong.
They have got it wrong. Oh my goodness. So Brontosaurus is back, and if you are
Bronto's
interested in the interview with Dr. Emmanuel Schopp, we have a TWIS interview at our YouTube channel, This Week in Science, that's up and ready for your viewing. If you want to hear him talk about his study and how he did what he did and why he published in an open access journal, and if you do want to read this Brontosaurus paper, it's almost 300 pages long. And so maybe open access was the way to go. Digital format all the way. Anyhow, it's up there, and I hope to also get it out as a special episode for our podcast listeners as well. So if you don't get to the YouTube page, never fear. I don't know. But maybe just go to the YouTube page. Come on, go look for it. Look for Brontosaurus is back, TWIS interview. This is This Week in Science, and we are done with the first half of our show. We're going to take a short break and be back with our interview with Zach Marshall to talk about the Atlas experiment and the LHC. Stay tuned. TWIS has merchandise that you might enjoy. Head on over to twis.org to buy some of our swag. We now have a link to our website that goes directly to our Zazzle store. So go to twis.org and click on that Zazzle store link in the menu bar to start buying right now. We also have a Cafe Press store. So if you head to Cafe Press and look for This Week in Science, we have some t-shirts available there too. TWIS is supported by listeners just like you. Your donations pay for our hosting, bandwidth, contractors we need to hire, and fun things that we try to do for the show. We appreciate any amount that you're able to give. $2, $200. You make this show possible, and we currently accept donations a couple of ways. First, we have PayPal buttons all over our twis.org website. So head on over there and click on one of those pretty buttons. It's a nice shiny button. You want to touch it. Anyway, the other way you can donate is through our Patreon account. You go to patreon.com/thisweekinscience. Patreon, patreon.com/thisweekinscience. Kind of like Kickstarter for media producers. You can get a gift in return for your donation, but whatever. You help us out. Whatever your preference, go to the website, listen to the most recent episode, comment on the show, and please make a donation. If you cannot afford a donation, we can always use your help to get more people listening to the show or watching it. And it's all about you using your social networks for science. That's right. Use your networks. Use your coffee pots, your water coolers, your Twitter accounts, whatever it happens to be, the way that you talk to people at the dinner table, maybe. I don't know. Tell people to tune into TWIS. Help us get more listeners and increase our minion army of followers. We thank you for your support. We really could not do this without you. And we are back. You are listening to This Week in Science, and we are here with Zach Marshall, who works at Livermore National Laboratory over in Berkeley, the Berkeley Livermore, not Berkeley, Lawrence Berkeley. I'm sorry. I keep la 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 la. La 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 la.
There are friends over the hill.
BLNL and LLNL. This is the Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory, and he is working on the Atlas experiment at the LHC. Thank you for joining us on the show tonight.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. So can you tell us, what is the Atlas experiment? What are you trying to do?
Yeah, the Atlas experiment is one of the two big experiments, and there are 4 total experiments around the LHC, which is a collider in Switzerland, just outside of Geneva. We take protons and run them around a 27-kilometer ring at almost the speed of light, bang them into each other, and watch what comes out. And it's the best way we know of to understand the highest energies that physicists can study. It's the closest time to the Big Bang that we can really study in a laboratory, and the best way to do it. So we've been colliding protons for 4 years now, and we're about to come back and start over at higher energy.
And so there are a few detectors or detector experiments at the LHC. What specifically are you looking for in the Atlas experiment in the particle array? What signals are you looking for?
Atlas is one of 2. CMS are our competitors, and we're general purpose experiments. So we're here to find anything that might be out there. It's really a machine that's built for discovery. So I can't tell you what it is that we're looking for because I'm not sure what it is we're going to find.
Right.
But we're hoping to catch anything that is, we hope, unexpected in the collisions.
And it's been the Atlas experiment that has provided us with evidence so far, with the first runs of the LHC, of the Higgs boson.
Atlas and CMS together,
And
to be
CMS
fair.
together.
I
Okay.
like to think we did it better, but of course CMS is.
Can you talk a little bit about the technical aspect of, all right, these particles are spinning around, like you said, near the speed of light, and you collide them into each other, and they break apart, and then
That's
and
right.
then, what then? How does your detector work?
It's like a big camera. Imagine a 100-megapixel camera, except ours takes pictures 40 million times a second. And we try and put together the collision. So it's kind of like putting together what a bomb looked like based on the fragments that you find around a room afterwards, and trying to piece it back together and figure out where it came from and what was in there. But particle physics is a funny thing. We have from Einstein the old equation, E equals mc squared. It says energy and mass are somehow related. And what that means is when you get particles to very, very high energies, you can actually steal some of that energy and make something really heavy. So in the case of the Higgs boson, it's 125 times heavier than the protons that were colliding in the first place. So it's like colliding 2 basketballs and having Michael Jordan pop out. It's a 1 in a million event, or in our case, 1 in, I think, 10 to the 9 or 10 to the 12, 1 in a billion, 1 in a trillion kind of event. And we try and capture just those most interesting events, piece them back together, and see if they look like what we expected, something called the standard model, which has been the model of particle physics that we followed for the last 40 years, or if it looks like something we didn't expect.
Yeah.
So the Higgs boson was the first one that really didn't look like everything that we knew about. It was a little bit different. It was kind of expected because it was the last key piece of the standard model, but it was nothing that anyone had seen before.
Right. So I remember reading somewhere that the theory of the standard model, that based on calculations, there was a particle of some kind expected, and it was hypothesized that it would be the Higgs boson around that 125 giga-electron volt energy range, right?
Exactly. Hindsight's always 20/20, so we'll go back and tell you it had to be there. If you look at the way the standard model works, when you get up to magic energy around a TeV, which is about 1/8 of what the LHC collides protons at, if you don't have something like the Higgs boson or something else, you basically divide by 0. You get answers that don't make sense anymore. So we knew there had to be something. That's why the LHC was such a great spot to start from, because it was one of the first times where we could build a collider and be absolutely certain that whatever it was we found would really profoundly change particle physics. And we found the Higgs boson, which was probably the most popular guess at the way that that divide by zero would be solved, that problem would be solved. So there it was sitting at 125 GeV, but if you go back for many, many years, you'll find lots of people guessing different masses, and some of them different by a factor of 10. So,
because this was the lead up to the discovery. I was like we were sort of opening different drawers of different energy levels and going, okay, well, no, it's not in that one. No, not in that one. No, okay, well, we've narrowed down where it could be, so now it can only be in these remaining drawers if it exists. So then eventually, right, then it gets to the open to the right drawer. Ah, of course, it's the last place we looked.
exactly.
And so the LHC and all of its detectors have been on a hiatus for upgrades, for increasing the energy of the LHC. So can you talk a little bit about what is happening now? We've turned the LHC back on, done the first test runs, and what's going on right now?
And how much more powerful is this run?
Yeah.
So the last one, we measure in electron volts. The last one was 8 trillion electron volts, and now we're going up to 13 trillion electron volts. In order to do that, they had to crack open the magnets all the way around the ring and improve the connections between them. Basically, they found a lot of the connections could have been problematic and couldn't have handled the current that we would need to put through them. Now they can. So we're starting to get back into physics mode. So on Tuesday night in Geneva, we had the first beam splashes in ATLAS, which is where they managed to get the protons into the LHC ring and move them all the way around the ring to the ATLAS detector. And just before they get there, they run them into a stop that just sprays particles through our detector, which is a great way for us to calibrate and gives you really pretty pictures. And if you look at some of the stories from early this week, you'll see those pictures of our detectors lit up like a Christmas tree with all these particles flying through it. So we're there. We can now get the protons into the ring. We can get them around the ring. We've gotten them locked with the RF current, is what it's called, so we can keep them going around the ring for quite a while if we want to. And now what they're doing is making sure that the orbit that they have is exactly the one they want. And that could take a while. So they're trying to make sure that everything is lined up just right so that when they raise the energy, those protons are going to be perfectly in the spot that we need them to be to collide and give us the nice collisions that we're looking for right in the center of the detector. So we're getting the protons around the ring, and we're about 6 weeks or so away from collisions at high energy in the center of ATLAS.
So what are you? All the tests that are being run currently, what energy level are they being run at for just this testing?
For the testing, they're at the same energy that we put protons into the LHC at, which is 450 GeV.
Okay, so it's significantly lower than the previous maximum of the LHC and what it's going to be. Okay.
That's right. You can think of this as the test energy to make sure everything's okay, and we only put in about 1% of the protons that we'll put in once we're going at full speed.
And have there been any changes to the ATLAS detector itself over the hiatus, or has it just been in ready mode, just waiting?
There have been. We've put in a major upgrade called the insertable B layer. So we took out the piece that was at the heart of ATLAS, which is the pipe around the collisions, and slid in a new pipe with a very small layer of silicon around it that we can use to track particles coming out of the collision. It's the closest we've ever managed to get to the collisions in ATLAS, and we think it'll give us really nice high precision measurement. At the same time, we've been working on a lot of other little subsystems here and there to tweak everything and improve it as much as we can for the next run.
It's so exciting. It just must be what? So we've got the evidence. What is it? 6 sigma, 5 sigma of the Higgs boson.
We're
Are
now
we?
up around almost 12 sigma when you put everything together. We're way past discovery. It's
Okay,
there.
way past.
It's
All
there.
right. It's so there. It's not even funny.
That's
All
right.
right. So we know it's there. How much more? I mean, are you expecting there was discussion about the Higgs boson being like a composition of other subparticles? Are you hoping that these higher energy levels are going to let you see whether that is the case?
One of the things we have to do with the higher energy is study the Higgs boson as much as we can. Figure out if it's really the one that the standard model says is there, or if it's a little bit different. And if it's a little bit different, that might be a sign that there's something else out there that we need to go look for. At the same time, because we're going to higher energy, there's a chance we find something completely different, some other particle or even set of particles. So there are a lot of possibilities out there. One of the most popular possibilities is something called supersymmetry, which is a symmetry between the basic particles in the universe. And if it's correct, then there's a second set of those that are heavier. And again, if it's correct, the LHC should be able to make those in the next run. If we're making them, we're going to try and find them, piece them back together, and be able to say whether the universe is supersymmetric or not. I hope we manage to find something like that. But of course, like I said, the most exciting thing would certainly be to see something that we absolutely don't understand in the highest energy collisions, that we have to then try and figure out how it fits into our picture of particle physics.
Which is
See,
exactly
that was gonna
the
be
story I started with earlier tonight. The 11-month-olds, right? This
Yeah.
never leaves. This never leaves us. This is so fantastic.
And that was going to be my question to you, Zach, actually, was what is more exciting, to find something that you needed to find and were hoping to find and fits, or something that doesn't fit at all? And it sounds like you like the stuff that totally doesn't make any sense, because then you have to figure it out, right?
I think it's a lot more fun trying to figure it out. Of course, no matter what we see, if we see something completely new, we're not going to know right away what it is. So you're going to have a lot of theorists out there saying, you found my particle. It was the theory that I had come up with years ago, and I should get a Nobel Prize. We'll have a lot of experimentalists saying, I have no idea what this thing is. Hang on, let's figure it out. Let's piece together all the evidence that we can and see if we can agree on what this thing is. I hope we're lucky enough to be in that situation. And that would be really great.
Awesome.
What was it that got you interested in working on the Atlas experiment? Have you had your goal, your sights set on working in high energy physics, like at the LHC, and when did you start? When did you start your path?
I was a physics undergrad here at Berkeley, actually, and I wasn't sure what exactly I was going to do. I wasn't sure if I was going to do theory or astrophysics or particle physics. I wasn't really sure. And when I was getting ready to graduate and go to graduate school, I sort of looked around, and the theorists were doing interesting things. A lot of them were working on string theory, and it was interesting stuff. And the experimentalists that I talked to were all really excited about what they were doing, and most of them were telling me the LHC is where it's at. It's really was, this is the point in particle physics where we can look and say, this is the moment for our field. The last 5 years and the next 5 years is really, the Higgs is a huge breakthrough in particle physics, and the next couple of years will be hugely meaningful for our field. And this could be the last chance for a while. To build one of these machines takes 20, 30 years. So we're not going to bring another high-energy collider online that can top the LHC until 2030, 2035. So now's the time to be in the LHC. And so, of course, this is where it's at. It's what I absolutely wanted to do.
Of course it is. I feel like, even though we might not be building another collider like this for a while, even though people are talking about already wanting to build one bigger and stronger somewhere else, that students coming into physics right now must just have so much to get excited about.
I hope so. Yeah, I think the LHC is fantastic, and we're also in some other areas in physics. The next 5-10 years are going to be hugely meaningful. There are dark matter searches out there that are about to hit a very basic limit where they'll either see dark matter or we're going to have to suddenly get way smarter about how we look for it. There are chances that some of the experiments looking for dark energy have a big breakthrough in the next 5 years or so. There are a few other experiments out there that are starting to become sensitive to really interesting things. LIGO is one that could, in the next couple of years, see gravity waves for the first time. So it's a great time to be a physicist. It's really, there are a lot of things to be excited about right now.
Someone in the chat room, Rights for Robots, is asking, I think they might be a little bit behind our conversation, but they're asking, so you could get to the impossible high energy of the speed of light and find a single thing that, as it split or cooled, led into all elements.
String theorists would love to think so. It's so when we get to these very high energies and we maybe produce new particles, if we find supersymmetry, for example, it's an indication that there might be something more fundamental to the physics that we're looking at. So the Standard Model, like I said, has held up for 40 years as the model for all of particle physicists, and it works extremely well at describing everything that we've looked at so far. But there are a few funny things about it. There are 3 copies of a lot of particles that are lighter and then medium and then heavy. The electron, the muon, and the tau are the 3 generations of quarks, if you've heard of that. It's not obvious why there should be 3. It's not obvious why the forces should be different, or if at very high energies they might be the same force. And we're just seeing an effective force at very low energy. So what we're hoping is that whatever we see at the LHC in the next run gives us a hint at how all of this really ties together and gets to the grand unified theory that physicists have been talking about since Einstein 80 years ago.
Right. Is there evidence towards something unifying everything? I mean...
So, I apologize to people who love other theories for continuously bringing up supersymmetry, but when you look at the strength of the forces as a function of the energy that you study them at, they actually change depending on the energy. And if you look at very high energies, it looks like they're sort of trending together-ish. If you add supersymmetry to that, they come together pretty nicely near one spot. That's now called the GUT scale, for Grand Unified Theory scale. It's very, very high energy. It's higher than we'll manage to get to in a collider anytime soon. But it's possible that if we find some supersymmetric particles, that could be an indication that that might actually come together, and that we're just a few steps away from really starting to understand how exactly that happens. Of course, some of the other experiments that I've mentioned, the ones trying to understand dark matter and dark energy, if they bear some fruit, then it could be hugely helpful in understanding the underlying patterns and the underlying theory in our universe.
Right. It seems like we look at the universe and it's like, okay, we've got stuff we can see, and then there's a lot of stuff that we can't see, and then there's stuff pulling everything apart, and then there's stuff pulling things together. But then how does it all fit together? And so it's everybody looking at these different forces and these different things, but in little pockets all by themselves. And so it would be kind of cool to go, okay, are things over here where you can see stuff the same? Do they act the same way as the stuff you can't see? Do the forces that pull things apart act similarly to the stuff that pulls everything together? I was
See,
there.
the only question I really wanted to have answered is why is it when you pull gluons apart, they have greater and greater desire to come back together again?
It's strange, right? It's something called confinement, which was a huge puzzle in the early 1970s, and people really didn't understand how this could work. How quarks, the theory says quarks have color. They can be red, green, and blue, and gluons can have two colors at a time. And nature only wants things that have either all the colors or a color and anti-color pair. So you can only have 3s and 2s, never 1s. You can't have a single gluon out there. Nature just doesn't allow it.
Mhm.
And it would be great if we understood something deeper behind that. But for now, that's really kind of how we understand it, that nature abhors isolated colored particles, as we call them. And the strength to pull those back together is so great that if you pull them apart with enough energy, you'll actually make more particles
Right.
that will go
The
along
energy
with the
you put
others.
into splitting them up was the energy required for the new particles.
That's right. That's right. So you can just pop new particles into existence to protect the ones that you're pulling apart.
Yeah, that's wild.
That's
Mind-boggling.
bizarre.
It's pretty neat.
So you've mentioned dark matter a couple of times. Do you know how the LHC is going to be involved in the search for dark matter or
Yeah.
understanding dark matter?
The dream scenario is we have two ways to find dark matter. One of them is to put something really big and heavy deep under the Earth or deep under the ocean, and to wait for dark matter to pass through it, collide, and give us a little signal. And the other is to try and make the dark matter directly. And that's where the LHC comes in. We're going to try and produce some dark matter. It's dark, so it goes zipping out of the detector at the speed of light, and we never actually see the dark matter particles that we make. But since we're making them in collisions, there's a chance that they come with some standard model particle, something that we know about on the other side. And what we'd see in our detector is a big imbalance between the stuff that we can detect and see and stuff that just disappears. There are a few things in the standard model that can do that. There are things called neutrinos, which pass through your body constantly, billions per second. Those look a lot like that. They can come with something that we are used to, just regular old protons and things, and balanced neutrinos, and then we'll see a very high energy thing and nothing on the other side. Or it could be a very high energy thing and dark matter on the other side. So we need some very good hypothesis. We have the standard model, fortunately, to see what that signature looks like in the standard model, and we hope we see more disappearing stuff than the standard model would tell us should be there.
Right. And in which case, then we could come back again to something like supersymmetry.
Exactly. So supersymmetry gives you one possible particle that could be that dark matter.
Well, it's nice to have, we've got the supersymmetry hypothesis, we've got, all the others, the standard model, all these things. And so it's the different possibilities. It's like, okay, we've got this little gap here, this imbalance. Which of these hypotheses match it? Right?
Exactly. And sorting those out can be really tough.
Yeah.
Every theorist out there has a little tweak to their version that looks a little bit different, and it could, in some cases, take us years to tell the two apart.
But this is like a physics version of the cooking show Chopped, right? At some point you get,
seems like a stretch.
Get the data back, and then it's like, all right, I'm sorry, supersymmetry, you've been chopped.
You've been chopped.
You had some good food. Your appetizers were great, right? Your theoretical entree was good, but dessert round, man, what were you thinking?
Are you hungry, Justin? Is that what this is now?
No, it's it. But it is. It's like this is a show with all these. I mean, everything looks. I don't cook, so everything these people make looks amazing to me. Like totally, like this is fantastic. And at the end, somebody has to go home. And that's sort of what this is. Like, there's a lot. Every time I'm listening to one of these theories by somebody who's pushing it forward, I'm like, wow, I totally believe that. And it's not until you see the rare instance of 2 or 3 of these scientists with the theorists with views of what could be, where they start arguing, where you're like, oh, wait, I thought that was the way it was. Oh, no, and I thought you were the way it was. Those conflict. Oh, okay, so they can't all be right? That's what I love about this experiment, is it is going to be sending somebody home, if effective.
There are even great cases of that. There's something called Technicolor that was an alternative to the Higgs, which was around for a long time, and there were some guys who really loved Technicolor. And now we've found the Higgs, and it's really hard to have both Technicolor and a Higgs boson. So it looks like we can finally say Technicolor is not Technicolor's chopped, I think.
Technicolor has been chopped.
Which is fantastic for a couple of things. I mean, everybody wants to be right, but more than that, you want it to be correct. You want the final result to be, pushing science forward and being correct. And it's important to have a lot of wrong ideas right now and theories, so you can flush out that theory, and you even know what you would be looking for, what the sign would be, what the signal in the instrument would be that would indicate, yeah, there's a chance that this is correct. So the more of those we bring to the table, the better. But you're right. This is that experiment that we won't be getting for another 30 years. That is going to really be able to shed light on, the last 30, 50 years of hypothesis and theory. We might be able to shake a few of them free and confirm a few others. So really an exciting time.
Yeah. Is there a time scale? Someone in the chat room is asking whether or not Rights for Robots again. Is there a time scale for 6 weeks until the first run, and then how long until we might be getting results?
Yeah. So
how long until you crunch all the numbers, Zach? No.
That's right. I think there was somebody who said, can't you guys update the spreadsheets faster?
Yeah.
I just didn't even know where to start on that one. So we'll go as fast as we can while still getting it right. So you'll see almost immediately some very pretty pictures, of course. And then we'll all disappear into our labs and try to figure out what's going on with the data. I expect that you will see some very early stuff only a few weeks after the first collisions. It won't be whether supersymmetry is there or not. It will be the LHC is back up and we understand our detector, it's all working fine, everything looks normal. Yeah. And then probably end of August, early September, there will be the first round of searches that start coming out. People saying, okay, these are some of the easiest theories to either find or not at the LHC at very high energy. And we've looked, and it's there or it's not. And then there's a big conference in the winter in March where you should expect there's going to be a huge blast of results from the LHC where we try and get everything that we can at.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to all that. And will you please explain to us exactly why and how the LHC is not going to swallow the Earth in a giant black hole?
The LHC is going to swallow the Earth? This is breaking news, Kirsten.
No.
Kirsten Sanford has just reported on This Week in Science. The LHC is going to swallow the Earth with a probability factor.
Why do you hurt me so much, Justin?
Wait, no, I just heard it on this show, live.
Be quiet. Stop it! Stop twisting my words.
Well, this is what happens. This is exactly what happened.
It didn't. Okay. Yes. People in my social media stream, I have friends with strange ideas who, share things. And one of the things, once again, since this story popped up when the LHC first started its run, but the story, once again, is that it's going to cause black holes that will swallow the Earth, or it's going to destroy the world in some way.
Yeah. So the LHC is in a lab so that we can study the collisions. And of course, nature is a much higher energy lab than we can make. So there are particles hitting the Earth from space that are way higher energy than anything we can put into the LHC. So if there were any chance that one of those could make a black hole, one of our collisions could make a black hole that would swallow the Earth would be long gone. The chance is zero the LHC will make a black hole that destroys the Earth.
I still like the answer, though, that you know, the LHC has enough energy in reserve to create a black hole, but won't do so unless the funding is cut.
It's an interesting threat. I'm not sure that would go over real well.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a little funny because there are people who have said we could make microscopic black holes that would immediately evaporate and leave a very interesting signature in our detector, and we could find them and learn something about gravity and the way gravity fits into this picture. It's something that's completely left out of all of the unified theories that you hear about gravity. Is this? It's the orphan out there on its own.
Mm-hmm.
And if we were to make something like that, it would be a fantastic discovery for physicists everywhere. There's zero chance that it would do any harm to anyone. It would be really wonderful if we managed to do that.
So you've heard it here officially. LHC is trying to make a black hole.
No!
And how awesome that would be. Right.
Oh,
A black hole
awesome.
that would absorb, that would evaporate pretty much upon creation.
That's right. In less than 1/billionth of 1/billionth of 1/billionth of a second. That's pretty fast. So
That's
probably
quick.
we'll all be okay.
And we'll all have been sucked into it that quickly.
Yes, it'll be painless. We won't even ever know it ever happened. So it's fine. I say go for it.
Don't worry about it. Maybe it's better to be sucked down a black hole than to be hit by a truck, right? Probably. I don't know.
On the one hand, it would be an exciting way to go. On the other hand, just zero chance. So I can't even get excited about it. It's just
Can't even.
Yes. Scientist is sucked into a black hole. That'd be a great way to go. It's true.
Yeah, but it's not going to happen anytime soon. Well, thank you so much for spending the last half hour, or I guess longer than that since you've been with us since the beginning of the show. Thank you so much for spending your evening with us and for speaking with us about the Atlas detector and also about the LHC and how it's not going to swallow up the Earth in a black hole. And and I do hope that that we hear more from you about the results from the Atlas. Maybe we can get you back on at some point to talk about how things are going.
I would love it. Thank you so much for having me, and keep watching the news. I hope we'll be in it a lot in the next year.
Yeah, I hope so too. I'm sure you will. This experiment is something that gets everyone's attention.
Hopefully the BBC will spell it right this time.
That's right. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
New York Times did that too. Okay.
The New York Times did it too.
Oh. Yeah, so if you don't know what we're alluding to,
Google it.
Google it. There are a few funny examples from various media outlets who flipped a couple of letters in the name of the Large Hadron Collider.
Yes. And along with the headline, "Wakes Up."
That's right.
Quite hilarious.
Oh, good gracious. So are we going to talk about some more science news?
Yeah, I have a couple short things.
Short stories.
Yeah. I have tarantulas. They work on hydraulics. Did you know this?
Oh, yeah. They've got fluid in their limbs.
Yes, they have
right?
fluid in their limbs called hemolymph.
Hemolymph.
Yes. That works just like hydraulic fluid. And so the idea was that by heating it up, it would work faster and it would work better. Kind of
So
like
you'd have faster, stronger, better tarantulas?
Yeah, kind of like with hydraulic fluid. They found some interesting things. They found that At low temperatures, they reached a top speed of 20 centimeters per second, which is pretty fast. By the time they warmed up to 40 degrees Celsius, they went at 53 centimeters per second. That's a lot faster. But what they found along with that was less coordination. So they were, so they were moving much faster, but not coordinated.
Stop.
Yeah.
Slow down.
So at the lower temperatures, they were going 4 strides per second. At the higher temperature, they were going 10 strides per second. But they couldn't coordinate it. So they weren't going at the same times with other limbs like they were at the lower temperatures. So what they found was they go faster, but it's not really more...
it's not more efficient. It's not actually better for them.
It's not efficient. It's not beneficial to them. So that's most likely why tarantulas hang out at dawn or dusk and not in the middle of the day.
Right,
So,
and probably, choose certain areas to inhabit. So, yeah.
And the idea was to figure this out because the way hydraulic limbs on a tarantula work is probably very similar to how an 8-legged robot might work with hydraulic legs, right? So that's pretty interesting, not expected. The other thing, our friend MRSA.
Oh, yeah, methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus.
That's MRSA. MRSA loves cigarettes.
Ew, wait,
So,
what?
Cigarette smoke makes MRSA stronger.
That is terrifying.
Yeah, so it makes it...
Whoa.
It makes it stronger, it's more resistant to your immune system, and basically it stresses it out, so it makes it more aggressive. And this was tested on MRSA.
Smoking has the same effect on humans.
And it was tested in mice. And it didn't help anything with the mice, it helped the MRSA inside the mice. And the fatality rate in the mice with MRSA skyrocketed when they were exposed to cigarette smoke.
Terrifying.
Yep. So
if
add
you
it to
have
the
MRSA, don't smoke.
How about just another reason not to smoke?
Right. Last week I talked about brown fat, right? We talked a lot about...
brown fat talking to the brain.
Yeah, you talked about brown fat talking to the brain. We've had brown fat on a couple of episodes, like 2 episodes
We talked
ago.
about beige fat, right?
Yeah, we've talked about all sorts brown fat. Well, researchers have transplanted brown fat in mice, and so they took brown fat from mice that were slim mice, and they injected it into mice that were genetically selected to become obese. So these were mice that were going to become obese. When they had brown fat injections, they did not become obese. So the question now is whether or not this could become a possible method for combating obesity. Could we take brown fat, harvest it from individuals in which brown fat is plentiful and those individuals who are slimmer, and use it? Get your brown fat injection.
It's like a reverse liposuction.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Reverse
We're actually
lipo.
you're gonna gain 10 pounds after the surgery. Just trust me, I know what I'm doing.
Trust me, this is gonna help you out. Yeah. So anyway, very interesting there. And then there is a single-dose Ebola vaccine that has been developed. Yeah, it's a vaccine that was based on one particular strain of the Ebola virus, but because of similarities to other strains, where the Ebola virus strains are sometimes not very dissimilar, and they were the vaccine is developed where it actually is kind of like a Trojan horse, and it has a bit of Ebola vaccine in it, so the Ebola virus is like, oh, you're my friend. Ah, you're not my friend. And it gets the human immune system up and happy, fighting off Ebola. Anyway, it fully protected non-human primates against the African Macona strain of the Ebola virus, suggesting that it will be useful against multiple viral strains.
Awesome.
Yeah, kind of cool. And then my final story, ALMA, which is a wonderful detector of light coming from the universe. ALMA took a picture of a distant star, a young star that still had a protoplanetary disk, and within it, it picked up the chemical signature of complex organic molecules. The kinds of complex organic molecules, the likes of which have not been seen floating in the realms of outer space previously. Anyway, methyl cyanide, hydrogen cyanide, they were spied within the protoplanetary disk around this distant young star in about the same area that comets, the Kuiper Belt comets, would come from were it the young sun. So the idea being that the building blocks of life are plentiful, and that we're not only finding water everywhere we look, we are also finding the building blocks for life in all the right places. And so life, it's probably out there.
Send more robots. Send more robots.
That's right. Robot probes for the win. We're going to go find that life somewhere. All right, everybody. Hey, Zach, could you let us know, do you have any Twitter account or Facebook account or say a blog that people might be interested in following?
You can follow the Atlas blog at atlas.ch/blog. I often post there. I do not have a personal blog yet, but there might be one.
Okay. And do you have any social media accounts that you might like to share?
Just the Atlas Experiment one. None for me, I'm afraid. Social
All right.
media phobe.
I am the exact opposite. Not so afraid of the social media. All right, everybody. Zach, thank you so much for joining us today. It was
Thanks, Zach. It was great talking to you.
Yeah, thanks.
It was great.
It was a great interview. Wonderful, wonderful time talking to you. And to everybody out there, I do believe, unless Justin, Blair, any more stories?
I just got a quick one here. This is a new 3D imaging, high resolution imaging camera, where each pixel of this thing that this camera takes on the chip, each pixel on the chip is an independent interferometer, and it can do distance finding. So it's doing basically what this is. I'm just blurbing it here, but this is the answer to we have a colony on Mars, and there's a part that they're missing, and they do a repair, and they don't have it. You can take the high-resolution 3D image with a picture down on Earth. The guy can go to the pick and pull or wherever he finds this part, take a picture of it, upload the 3D image to Mars, and their printer to the 3D printer on Mars, and it can print out this part. I mean, this is something that could have a fantastic use in 3D printers in terms of reproducing copyrighted goods at a store. You could go, you just go see the toy in the store, take a picture of it. Your 3D printer is at home is already making this toy. But really, for the ability to reproduce something on Mars when they need a part, they need it quick. They don't have the manufacturing complete processes up. They don't have schematics. They don't even see the part. It's broken. Take the picture of it back on Earth, upload it, boom, there it is.
Boom, there it is. And now it's time for me to say thank you to all of our Patreon sponsors. Thank you to Kevin Donald Wesley Ballard, Paul D. Disney, Kati Volk, Sam Winzier, John Ratnaswamy, Steve DeBell, Gerald Sorrells, Greg Guthman, David Neighbor, Jason Dozier, Matthew Litwin, Eric Knapp, Andreas Akestad, Jason Roberts, Patrick Cohn, Shane and Tara Ginsberg, Richard Onimus, Byron Lee, E.O., Bob Calder, Jared Lysette, Ed Dyer, Ulysses Adkins, Brian Condren, Jake Jones, Trainer84, Edvardus Rimkus, Nicholas Lai, Brian Hedrick, Cassie Lester, Chris Cross, Sarah Chavez, Steven Soroyak, Layla, Marshall Clark, Charlene Davidson Henry, Don Kamarechko, Larry Garcia, Randy Mazuka, Tony Steele. Lord Trentonian Moody, Daryl Lambert, Kevin Parachan, Richard Bowersox, David Fessenden, Salgood Sam, Matt Sutter, Emma Grenier, Miranda McKennett, Brian Rossman, James Dobson, Steve Goodwin, Kurt Larson, Stefan Insam, Michael George, Craig Landon, Russell Jensen, Mountain Sloth, Jim Drapeau, Darren Lute, Tara Payne, Alex Wilson, John H. Maloney, Jason Olds, James, Paul West, Lauren Lang, Ed Bennett, Thomas Mikinen, Alec Doty, Illuma Lama, Joe Wheeler, Dougal Campbell, TMRO, Miko Pakala, Craig Porter, Adam Mishkan, Aaron Luthen, Marjorie, Paul Stanton, Scott Lajewski, David Simmerly, Tyler Harrison, Ben Rothig, Columbo Ahmed, and Gary Swinsberg. Thank you so much for all of your support on Patreon. If you are interested in supporting us, you can find information at patreon.com/thisweekinscience. Also, remember that you can help us out simply by telling your friends about TWIS. On next week's show, once again, we'll be broadcasting live online at 8 p.m. Pacific time on twis.org/live, when you can watch and join our chat room. But don't worry if you can't make it. It's okay. You can find our past episodes on YouTube or at twis.org.
Thank you for enjoying the show. TWIS is also available as a podcast. Just Google This Week in Science in your iTunes directory. Or if you have a mobile device, you can look for TWIS for Droid in the Android marketplace, or This Week in Science in the Apple marketplace, and This Week in Science in the Apple Podcast app on your iPhone.
For more information on anything you've heard here today, show notes will be available on our website. That's www.twis.org. That's TWIS.org, where you can also make comments and start conversations with the hosts as well as other listeners.
Or you can contact us directly. Email Kirsten at thisweekinscience.com, Justin at twistminion@gmail.com, or Blair at blairbaz@twis.org. Just be sure to put TWIS, TWIS, somewhere in the subject line, or your email will be spam filtered into oblivion. You can also hit us up on the Twitter, where we are at TWIScience, at Dr. Kiki, at JacksonFly, and at Blair's Menagerie. We love your feedback. If there's a topic you would like us to cover or address, a suggestion for an interview, a haiku that came to you in the night, please let us know.
We'll be back here next week, and we hope you'll join us again for some more great science news.
And if you've learned anything from today's show, remember,
it's all in your head.
This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science, it's the end of the world, so I'm setting up shop, got my banner unfurled. It says the scientist is in, I'm gonna sell my advice, show them how to stop the robots with a simple device. I'll reverse global warming with a wave of my hand, and all it'll cost you is a couple of grand. 'Cause this week's science is coming your way, so everybody listen to what I say. I use the scientific method for all that it's worth, and I'll broadcast my opinion all over the earth. 'Cause it's This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 I've got one disclaimer, and it shouldn't be news, that what I say may not represent your views, but I've done the calculations and I've got a plan. If you listen to the science, you may just better understand that we're not trying to threaten your philosophy. We're just trying to save the world from jeopardy. Jeopardy. And This Week in Science is coming your way, so everybody listen to everything we say. And if you use our method instead of rolling a die, we may rid the world of toxoplasma gondii. 'Cause it's This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 I've got a laundry list of items I want to address, from stopping global hunger to dredging Loch Ness. I'm trying to promote more rational thought, and I'll try to answer any question you got. So how can I ever see the changes I seek when I can only set up shop 1 hour a week? This Week in Science is coming your way. You better just listen to what we say, and if you've learned anything from the words that we've said, then please just remember it's all in your head. 'Cause it's This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 This Week in 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 Science.
And so we end another episode of This Week in Science.
Huzzah!
Huzzah! Hurrah, huzzah! Zachary stayed with us till the very end.
Yeah.
Hi there.
Hanging on to the bitter end. Thanks, that was fun.
You're
Yay.
welcome. Thanks for joining on short notice. I know Trenton is not in the chat room, from what I can tell, but I'm glad he suggested you for an interview. I'm sorry that we had some crossed wires there for the scheduling of it, but you were here and it was so much
They
fun.
originally said, we need someone for an interview tonight. That was last week. And,
Wait, what?
So clearly, there were many crossed wires, many of which were on our end, I feel certain. So, it is what it is.
I'm so
Fortunately,
confused.
None of them cause faster than light neutrinos, so that's all okay.
Oh, yes, exactly. We don't have those kinds of crossed wires.
Mm-hmm.
Ha ha ha. That's like a good LHC joke right there.
Little too many, little too... Yeah. Anyway, I'll let you guys enjoy your evening. Thanks again. That was a lot of fun.
Thank you. Have a wonderful,
Yeah,
wonderful
thanks
evening.
for coming.
Absolutely. Take care.
Good
And good
night.
luck with the house move.
Ah, thank you. Almost done. Ah, we'll get there. That's right. T-minus 4 days to driving to Portland. What? So, yeah, identity for... Is that oh, you say a swan egg, says Blair. Swan egg.
All right, Popeye.
Next week's guest is Neil Dyson. I'm glad you enjoyed the episode. Identity 4, Rights for Robots. Everyone, wow. Thanks, everyone. Glad you enjoyed it. How fun. It was fun. He was a good interview. And we did get right through those stories in the first half of the show. Good job, team.
I know. I was worried I was going to have to talk about that Brontosaurus story forever, but luckily it's compartmentalized for
It
later.
is.
It worked out
Yeah.
perfectly.
Hire Zach as an intern.
Pretty sure Zach's
I think he's
busy.
kind of busy.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
he's doing all right there.
Zach was definitely a great guest.
Yeah, he was-
we need to keep in the
Rolodex.
in the
That's right.
Rolodex.
That's right.
And call back later when he's going to be too busy, but maybe worth the projection of the science he knows. He was fun to talk to.
He was fun to talk to. And he had a good way of explaining stuff, too. It was very casual and it was understandable. It was very nice. Well done.
Blair, I sent you a story. There was a story that broke
That
this
is
week.
not TWIS appropriate. I also think it's not that interesting of a story.
Why
Oh.
was that appropriate?
Okay, because it was panda porn. All right, so it was.
No, it wasn't
these
panda porn.
pandas-
No.
it literally was, because it was these pandas that broke the record for the longest copulation ever for pandas recorded, and the video was in the story. That's
So
panda.
that was okay. So my first reaction to it
It is
was
the
this
after
is
show. What? panda porn. What if
Oh,
I look
don't
for
look
panda?
that. Don't
I have to say,
just
having
go.
watched
Just Google like record-breaking panda sex. and you'll
Panda
find it.
sex.
aside
just
from,
panda
I
sex.
thought there was too much biting. I'm not really into that. But
Of course,
some of the
pandas
I didn't
bite
watch
each
it because
other.
I don't really need to see
I
that.
was impressed.
Lulu,
like,
the
I have never even
Gawker.
considered this as being possible.
Oh. I just
But
want to say
Blair,
thank you to
this
Gawker for
panda, though,
this.
is this one male panda with his woodsman-like, bamboosman-like activity? Is this the panda that could bring back pandas? Does this give you some hope
No.
that pandas
7 minutes
come
and
back?
45 seconds.
Mhm.
Go Lulu.
Yeah.
7 minutes and 45 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
No, he broke the 8-minute barrier, didn't he?
No. No. So.
Nope.
Oh, wait. Oh, wait. Okay. So, according to Gawker, I can't believe I went to Gawker for panda sex news. I guess I can believe it. Sichuan Giant Panda Research Center's record for panda sex for 7 minutes and 45 seconds. Lulu, the panda, aka quote-unquote enduring brother,
Mm-hmm.
he more than doubled. Okay. So yesterday-ish or whatever day, it was 7 minutes and 45 seconds, and then he found another bear, doubled his record time,
Oh.
more than doubled it, and enjoyed a romp for 18 minutes and 3 seconds. The average panda sex session lasts between 30 seconds and 5 minutes. That's not that different from human sex.
I beg to differ, but maybe you're sharing too much, Kiki.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I mean, the low end might be accurate. The highs, I would hope, is higher than that.
Yeah, the high is definitely higher in people. I'm joking. Jeez.
18 minutes and 3 seconds. You know, that's
Go
for
Lulu.
pandas who have trouble even considering taking
All right, but
this
let's keep
one
in
panda.
mind. Let's keep in mind it does help with offspring, happening as a result, but it doesn't guarantee it. So
It does not guarantee it.
this
no.
means he can copulate for a long time, but it doesn't mean that his, mechanics are good, or that his mate selection was good, or that his equipment is good, or that the sperm is good.
That
It
the
doesn't
sperm
indicate
are
his
good is the
genetics
most.
are good.
Yes.
But Blair, in 18 minutes versus a minute and a half, and the pictures I've got, I don't know what you've got, the pictures I've got show it's trying different mechanics. I mean, this was like, trying many different.
Yes,
This is like the Karma Sutra of porno.
I'm
panda
with
porn.
you. I understand. It's all I'm saying is it only takes one swimmer to make a pregnancy, and that in the wild this could be a really beneficial way of doing it because it would monopolize that female for him.
Yeah.
But in captivity, there's got to be diminishing returns. After a certain amount of time, you've kind of maxed out on how effective that mating session can be based on how long
I
it
beg
is.
to disagree. I agree that it only takes one swimmer, but I think the longer you're in the water, the better your chances are.
There's diminishing returns. That's all I'm saying. It's true to a certain extent, but after a certain amount of time, doesn't matter how many swimmers you throw in there, either she's getting pregnant or she's not.
And to be honest, she looked like she had lost interest by the end.
Probably. So you saw the video. It sounds like
He watched it.
Yeah, I'm hooked.
Hooked on panda porn.
oh boy, I have no need to see that at all.
There's somebody in my Twitter feed who's saying that they tried to subscribe don't know what they tried to subscribe to. Just tried to subscribe to TWIS, I guess, and was stopped by Google. Tried to subscribe from my phone, but wouldn't allow it. Said I tried to subscribe, but was stopped by Google Report. Said they are discontinuing the show from Google.
What?
No, if somebody's making it up, or like I don't know how my show could be discontinued from Google. Have we been banned? Have we been banned? What's going on?
Weird.
It's your phone.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know what that's all about. Google account action required. Oh, yeah. Ugh. I can't believe I did that. And now I have forgotten my Google password again.
Again?
Darn it.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
The stress is starting to get to me.
I can tell.
Yeah.
The stress is starting to get to me, too.
I know you're supposed to...
different stress.
Yeah, I know you're supposed to not write things down. I think I need to start writing things down. I can't remember my hints to help me remember my hints. One of these days, 1Password. That's what I need. 1Password.
I know they tell you not to do that, but I probably have about 5, and I mix it up.
No. There's a service called 1Password, and it's a secure. It's like a secure password service that the service will change your passwords so that you don't get hacked. But then you just have 1Password that you use to get in to everything.
Oh.
Yeah, and it's supposed to be incredibly secure. I've had a lot of people recommend it.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Pandas are determining TWIS be shut down. That's right. The TWIS voyeurs. CR1. Oh my goodness. I'm trying to find. I have lots of pages. The circus is in my brain. So how is everything going, Blair?
Okay.
Yeah.
My brain's kind of fried.
Yeah, I think my brain is full.
I feel like I need to take like 2 weeks off and just like sit on a beach somewhere.
That's what I
have no responsibilities and not use my brain. But that's not going to happen anytime soon.
That's why we need meditation or just internal happy place.
Or a time machine.
Or a time machine, right.
Time Turner from Harry Potter. That's what I want. Just be like, I'll just hang out for a week, jump backwards, start over.
Yeah.
Or I guess you'd have to live the week as planned first, and then jump back and do your vacation. Because, see, either way, this is problematic because you have people trying to look for you the whole time.
No, this is not how time travel works, Blair. You totally do not understand. So here's how time travel works. We get the tickets. It's 2 weeks from now. We go about our regular business. The day comes when we got our tickets ready to go to Hawaii. We get on the plane. We go to Hawaii. We spend 2 weeks in Hawaii.
Mm-hmm.
Come back. We get in the time machine, and we go back to right after the plane took off.
Mm-hmm.
Right after the plane took off, we reappear in our time stream.
If we plan on doing it, then we will have done it.
Yeah, so we got to go on the vacation, but to the rest of the world's knowledge, we never left.
But see, the first time you'd get in trouble for being absent.
No, you were never absent.
The first time you were before you went back.
No, because that never happened. Because you went back in time. You were already at work the same time you were at the beach.
Yeah, it's like a Mobius strip. I get it. It's like a Mobius strip.
The downside of this is if you abuse this too much, you start to age really rapidly, and you die at 50 to everybody else, even though you lived a nice, long, healthy life because you kept taking a week here, 2 weeks there. We'll do a month this time. And yeah.
How about we all just get an extra week of vacation?
Yeah.
How about 3
I like
weeks
that
is
idea.
the standard instead of 2?
I like it.
There are lots of other countries where that's the standard.
I know. 3 weeks is civilized. 4 weeks is so civilized.
Yeah, there was. I met some people traveling when I was in Greenland. They were Italian, an Italian couple, and it was like, how did you pick Greenland? Like, how did this? Like, why was this a spot to go? Right? You're from Italy. Italy alone's got to have enough to see to spend an entire vacation, not leaving your own country. Plus, you got all of Europe there. You could go to Athens. You could go to Africa. You could go check out the United States. And it turned out they each had 9 weeks out of the year vacation. And they were like, oh, we've been everywhere else. We've literally seen everything and been everywhere in the world. Because every year, they have 9 weeks paid vacation.
That's awesome. Paid vacation. That's amazing.
Ed from Hawaii Vacation, now we know where our Patreon money really goes. All the Patreon money thus far, all of it thus far, has gone to building the time machine. We haven't yet taken the vacation. We haven't gotten there yet. We're still building the time machine. So as soon as that's completed, yeah, you're right. Then from then on, all that money will go there. Currently, it's all in time machine.
Ed posted a link in the chat room. JLo's dress search created Google Images. Basically, the green dress that JLo once wore to the Grammys.
Oh, the green dress.
The green dress. It started this
the scarf dress.
Movement of people looking for the green dress online, and yet there was no Google image search at that point in time, and so there was no easy way to search for the green dress via images. And so Eric Schmidt said, hey, that really inspired us.
I feel like that was back when you'd have to wait for it to load to down the screen.
15 years ago.
Damn it, that's the wrong dress. All right, let me go back.
15 years ago, image search, 15 years ago. Isn't that insane? So crazy.
I was just I was writing up fact cards for these sculptures that are going to be at the zoo today at work, and I was, I got to search like National Geographic and the country's government of wherever the animal was from and all these amazing things. And I was just kind of all of a sudden thinking about, oh yeah, I used to have to like go to the library and look at encyclopedias and books and do a lot of like hardcore research,
right?
Pages. You couldn't go Apple F to find a term you were looking for on a page. You had to actually kind of read the index or the chapter listing and kind of flip your way through, and it's so much easier now. Oh my god.
Oh, I remember working with microfiche.
I did that a little bit too.
Oh my god, microfiche. Oh my gosh. I just have to share this photo. It was from Twitter. Somebody named JB4Reels posted on Twitter. My daughter's reaction when I told her that we used to have a white president.
I was just shown recently there are these videos giving kids old technology and just watching them react to it.
They're hilarious.
And the one with the VCR is just...
It's like roasting old people.
Amazing. No, it's amazing. They're like, how do I, where is the, what's tracking? It's like,
Oh God.
they
Yeah.
try to make them get, like, they try to get these 8, 9, 10-year-olds to function a VCR. It's amazing to watch.
They don't even know how to use rotary dial phones.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
They
they'll
have
just,
no
like,
idea what that is.
press their fingers in the holes where the numbers are, but not rotate it around. They'll just be like, where are the buttons? How do I make it work? How do I make it go?
Give a kid a pager.
You can't call your friend. They live in the next town. That's long distance, and we'll get charged a mortgage if you talk for an hour.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Oh, I remember that. I remember what a big when I finished college and took a 2-month trip through Europe, and I was so worried about, because I had no money, and I was just doing this, like, I had enough money to buy my airline tickets and some train tickets and then little cheap hostels and stuff. And I was like, I don't know how I'm going to call home. I have no idea how I'm going to call home, because like using money was different back then. Like, I think I had one credit card.
Yeah.
Like, it was ridiculous. Everything was like real
Did you
money.
call
We actually
collect?
I called collect a couple of times
Trying
internationally.
to explain to someone with a kid what calling collect is.
Right? Oh, so many things.
Hmm.
Oh, I'm so
Yeah.
old.
Right to robots.
Get a kid to work a payphone.
Without a remote control. This is why we have obesity in children now. This is how it
You know
used
what
to
I
be
was
our
thinking
exercise.
My parents had for emergencies for when I ran out of change for the payphone, because cell phones weren't really a thing yet. They had a calling card that was just a series of probably 40 numbers.
Yeah.
And I had it memorized, and I just could go up to a payphone and type in those 40 numbers, and then the number, and then 10 more numbers, and then a pound, and then it worked. And I can't imagine trying to do that now. And you had to keep all of the phone numbers in your head.
Yep.
I don't know.
I had so many phone numbers in my head.
Yeah,
And then
I don't
had
have
numbers.
like any.
I had numbers written down all over the place.
Yeah. I had like not just people too. I would have like my favorite like delivery place, or I had, because I went to a very difficult high school, I think I had the Kinkos. I had that number in my head for like reports and posters and like presentations. I had the Kinkos number in my head. Like, it's so funny that it's this whole area of your brain that you don't use anymore. What is in there? What is in that space? Web addresses? Passwords?
Passwords that I obviously am starting to forget. It's like, oh, why did I ever change my password in the first place? I thought I was going to be more secure and like, oh, I'm going to change my password because that's what you're supposed to do. And then, of course, I can't remember it because I changed it.
Yeah, if I lost my cell phone and needed to use a payphone to call somebody, no chance. No chance. I have nobody I can call.
No.
I have maybe one person. I think I have one person I can call. I can call my work. I can call my work number. To do that.
See, I went to a payphone recently because my phone died, and I picked up the phone, and it was not connected to the payphone box. Like, oh.
That doesn't help.
Okay.
That doesn't help at all.
And I needed a cab because I didn't have like any money on me. I think I had some change. And yeah, my phone had died, and you need your phone now to call a cab because cabs don't just drive around the city of San Francisco anymore because you have Uber and Lyft and Sidecar and everything else. And so I couldn't call a cab because my phone was dead. I couldn't call any of these rideshare services. I was stranded in the middle of this metropolitan city because my phone died. It was bizarre.
I think we spotted a few payphones in New York, but I don't recall if they actually were functioning.
None of them that we saw were functioning, I don't think.
Yeah, but they were, but I think they were still there because they were allowed to be there, and they were still selling advertising on the sides of them.
That's what you said, and I think that's right.
Yeah, because they still established, okay, I have the right to this little bit of real estate that somebody bought back in the 70s that's been passed on to have this, little payphone booth thing here. But the ads on the sides were current, but yeah, no functioning phone within.
Oh boy, it's a different world, guys.
It is.
I feel like in some ways it's changed more in the past 20 years than in like the 80 years before that was the Industrial Revolution.
I think you're right.
Like, it's kind of weird.
I'd say we're there. Yeah. Things are changing rapidly and speeding up. I mean, it's part of the whole curve of technology, the exponential curve of progress. Right?
Yeah, the only thing they won't make more of, though, is land.
It's true.
And that's why we've got to invest in Science Island. How does the Lassen Valley sound to you two?
Where is that? How do you spell it?
It's like
Lassen,
near Mount Lassen.
Yeah, it's like okay. There was a volcano that erupted there once.
The national park.
Yeah.
We can't buy the national park.
No. But there's like a big swath of land up there for really cheap. We could totally afford it with the Patreon money. We just need to do the show for 9 years.
And never use
How
any.
have you started a different Kickstarter for that?
The Kickstarter is for once we have the land. The Kickstarter is so we can get the greenhouses there, so we can get the what do you call them, shipping containers there.
I like shipping containers.
I do too. I've really warmed up to, well, mostly because I've learned that there's just no way to make an Earthship in California. It's just not possible. They won't let you.
They won't let you what?
Build an Earthship biotecture in California.
Why not? Building codes?
So the holdup is earthquake testing.
Mm.
And everything that you can build in California has to be the structures have to be tested on basically an earthquake machine, which you build it up on this structure and under this big thing shakes, and you have to rent the time to get on there and all this.
You can't do that with those houses.
Right, because those houses are, compounding tires and stacking, and it's a months-long process. Whereas when they're normally testing a new structure or a new trellis or trestle or whatever it is that they're going to use in a house, they build it in a couple of hours. There it is. It goes on the machine. It survives, pass, and it comes down and is off again. And you would need to literally rent and monopolize this earthquake machine for months to do an Earthship properly. So I've switched to, and I kind of like my Switch. Kind of like the Switch because these things get stacked, 10, 12 of these high. So structurally, they're extremely sound. They're designed to withstand wind and water and everything else. So you can actually pretty cheaply acquire these. I mean, there's a place that'll deliver, which is the key part. You can buy them cheaper than this. But this is the only outfit I found that will actually deliver it to you, which is a whole other thing. For about $4,400. It's a 40-foot long, what are those, like 12 feet wide, 10 feet, something like that. So you got a couple of these up there stacked, and you've got a cabin in the middle of wherever.
How about we go to one of these islands off the coast of Canada instead?
Off the coast of Canada, huh?
Yeah.
I'd do that.
Haida Gwaii.
Except that it's going to be cold.
It's going to be kind of cold.
Yeah. I mean, anywhere can be cold.
It'd be neat.
It's gonna be cold
Haida
and like
Gwaii.
if it gets frozen over, then you can't like even take a boat to go somewhere. And you have to become Canadian, which has its own downsides.
Queen Charlotte Island. It's an archipelago
Look, I
on the
found
north coast
100
of British
no,
Columbia.
240 acres. I found
Gorgeous.
240 acres.
It's so pretty.
Here it is. Oh, Ed put it in the chat room. This is the 240 acres of Lassen for like 160 Gsels. Well, it's more than that. It's you got to add like 11 to that. What is that? It's like 170 overall, I think.
Okay, I want to go to Haida Gwaii now. It looks really pretty.
Haida Gwaii?
Uh-huh. Oh my god, it's so pretty.
No,
Probably
not
like
this
for
part.
a
This part of
month out of the
California
year.
is where they bottle water, Steve. This is the Northern California. This is where Mount Shasta is, just about. Whoa. Whoa. That link you put in there was 4 pages long.
I saw. But it's so pretty. Just look at that place.
Hot Rod. Don't hate me for not wanting to be a Canadian. It's so much pressure to say A all the time. You always got to remember.
Oh my goodness. Let's see. In case anyone is interested, there is an immediate opening for postdocs. Postdoctoral research associate in atmospheric science and meteorology at the Savannah River National Laboratory at Aiken, South Carolina. Are you a recent PhD grad with experience in atmospheric science, meteorology, and modeling? SRNL needs you. They have a position available at one of the DOE's top national laboratories, where you will develop optimal methods for characterizing air emission sources of interest through collecting and analyzing experimental field data, meteorological observations, and atmospheric dispersion modeling. Developing advanced statistical methods, identifying and attributing sources of emission, and other related tasks. Yes.
Oh my god, I have to go to this island.
So can we buy the island? How much do they want for it?
Most of it's a national park, but there might be parts of the archipelago that we could buy. I don't know.
The parts of the I own part of an archipelago.
Yeah. But they have bears
when you're underwater on
and
your island
orcas
because of
and
global warming, I will be laughing at you.
most of California is going to be underwater if
Yeah,
that island's underwater, so
right.
that you can't really.
You need to buy a mountain. That's what we really need to be looking for.
Yeah.
High elevation.
You need to be on top of a mountain. Denver. Go to Denver. Oh my god, I think I have to go here.
That looks pretty. I bet the weather is terrible.
I bet it's half and half. They have hot springs.
Yeah.
They have sea otters. Oh my god.
I like sea otters.
They have eagles.
How pretty.
Bears.
Wow. Who built those giant stairs?
I don't know. There's hella totem poles there too.
I'm a totem pole.
Wait, so we'll be displacing native peoples?
No, they're gone already.
If we go anywhere, it has to be Hot Spring Island. Because I bet there are lots of hot springs there. Hot Spring
Yeah, there's lots of hot springs. Yeah. Let's go do some reconnaissance.
Haida Gwaii. What?
Yeah.
How gorgeous.
Yeah.
What a pretty place.
Giant earthquake
So
hits
going
Haida
to be
Gwaii.
underwater.
I saw that too.
Tsunami warning.
It's at an epicenter, but guess what? I'm at an epicenter right now too. So
Yeah, but yours doesn't have tsunami. I'm not going to tsunami epicenter. No.
that's no way to live your life.
Yes, that's exactly how. It's exactly how to live your life.
Avoiding
Tsunami
tsunamis
epicenters.
and rockets. It's no way to live a life.
So pretty. I'm going to be even closer in Portland. Kidding.
Oh my goodness.
All right, you guys.
Yep.
Tired time?
Tired time.
I'm tired.
So this time next week,
I will be in Portland this time next week. I will.
you will be an
in
Oregonian.
Yeah. So, I am hoping that I'll be able to have my internet turned on. I've been talking to Comcast. I have not scheduled a technician to come out yet, but fingers are crossed that by Wednesday we will have internet.
Okay.
If I don't,
I will bring 5 stories just in case.
yes, if I do not have internet, no, not next week. Never mind. So next week will be no problem. Not next week, but the week after, we are going to be talking with Scott Lewis about Hubble's 25th anniversary, which is
nice.
going to be taking place the day after our show. So he'll be on to talk about it. Yeah.
That'll be
He's
good.
going to tell us all about that, which will be good. But next week is kind of a crapshoot. Yeah, we'll see. If I have internet, then I am good to go. If I do not have internet, then I'll just, I don't know, I'll see if I can talk to you from my phone.
Yeah.
I don't know if that'll work.
I mean,
We'll figure it.
you'll keep me updated via your phone, and we'll work something out. It'll be
Don't, yeah, Identity 4, don't jinx me. Not that I believe in jinxing. Yeah. Rorks, thank you so much. Thank you. Everyone up in Portland, I'm coming up there soon. Ha ha.
And then you're flying me out later.
That's right. And then Blair will come up to Portland and we'll do a show from Portland. Woo woo.
And then you'll come down and
Justin
we'll do
will
shows from
come up.
here.
Yeah, and I'll come down and we'll be like traveling all over the place. It's going to be awesome.
Huzzah.
Huzzah for awesomeness.
Hooray.
You know what's halfway between where we are and Portland?
What?
246 acres of ranch land in Lassen County, California.
Oh, very nice.
So you go ahead and put a shack that's internet enabled there,
Uh-huh.
and we'll meet each other there. How many hours does it take to drive there? 6?
To what?
Drive there from here?
Yeah, about
6?
5.5, 6 hours.
Yeah, I'm not
3.
doing that every week.
No, not every week, right?
It's not 6 hours. It's like 3.
Nah. It's 1.5 for me to get to where you live.
That's because you
That is
drive
true.
slow.
No.
I make that drive. Just so you know, I make that drive in an hour.
That's
An hour.
dangerous.
It's about an hour and 15 minutes.
Yeah, it gets slow. You gotta stop at the to pay the toll thing. You gotta do that. Yeah. You don't have the fast pass.
Oh, rights for robots. Don't. You're not this. The box. Yes, this background is all going to change. My strange little door and the box and all that stuff. I'm going to try and create a new, better set. Something that will be really nice in the background. I'm going to do something. Do a tree fort. Maybe I can do a tree fort.
Oh my goodness. Portland has more microbreweries than any city. Kiki, I'm coming.
It's so true. Yes.
Oh, it has a
Yes.
microbrewery in a movie theater where you can have a beer have a pitcher at a table while watching a movie.
So I'm coming.
Yeah.
Come up. Come to Portland.
Portland's the coolest city I've been to.
Let's do a show in Portland.
I bet we could. I'm gonna get to know the science people up there. I'll set something up.
Yay!
You guys will have to come up and we'll do a live show in Portland.
When I was there, now this was a while ago. This was 15 years ago-ish, 14 years ago-ish, something like that.
When Google Images was created.
Yeah. Portland was like walking into the late 70s, early 80s.
So now it's like walking into the late 1990s.
I'm kind of
Like
curious.
the 90s.
It'll be really interesting
Okay.
to see
Have you
how it's changed since I left the civilization that was
seen the Portlandia
a good
videos?
20 years
I've
behind.
seen some of Portlandia, yeah. That's what you're going to.
It was like an entire city of retro. Everything from the cars to the way people dressed. There were things called video game arcades, pinball arcades, bookstores. There was bookstores, I remember. It was really like fascinating to see it.
Breweries and Birkenstocks. Very nice.
Yeah, sounds like home.
So you have to click on that link I put up there, even though it's a weird. I hate the way Google does that.
I'm
I
watching.
did not mean to copy that. That's not what I meant to copy. And then there's the dream of the 1890s, which is so funny. And I only found out about that because of either Ben or Dave Friedel or someone on.
Oh yeah, it's from Portlandia.
Yeah.
Such a great show. If you haven't watched Portlandia, you haven't prepped yourself for moving to Portland. You need. By the way, people don't mention it to people in Portland that you watch Portlandia as preparation because they hate the show Portlandia. But it actually does describe them to a T.
I haven't watched it. I don't actually like the show. Not a big fan.
Oh my god, this is amazing.
The song is so hilarious. Oh my god, I'm followed by so many spammers. Google Plus spam.
Portland is a city where young people go to retire.
Yeah.
Double-decker bicycles.
There's so many funny things in it. A giggle.
You're a little San Francisco right now.
It's hilarious, isn't it?
What does that even mean? You're a little San Francisco right now. All right.
I say dude a lot, CR1. I fit in great. I say dude all the time. Usually when I'm talking to my son, like, dude, chill out. Come on, dude, chill out. Good, good. Star Trek in the park. That sounds awesome.
Oh, wow.
It has everything. And
Right,
restaurant. Everywhere is a restaurant and a bar. Everything is a bar, restaurant, bar, movie theater. You can drink. No sales tax.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no
So, like, if
sales
something
tax.
costs
Everything.
99 cents and you hand somebody $1,
You get change.
they give you change.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Identity 4 quit. Good night, Identity 4.
Oh, and don't freak out if you pull up to the gas station and somebody starts pumping your gas for you. You
Oh, do
didn't
they do that
accidentally
there?
go
It's
into the
ille-
full service lane.
It's illegal to pump your own gas
It's illegal.
in Oregon. In
And
general.
also, they will hold your beer for you.
What? No.
Yeah, they will hold
Yeah.
your beer for you. If you have to go in to pay, they'll hold your open container while you go in.
I don't
That
think
might
you can
not
have
be
open
legal, but they'll
container.
still do it. They're just that courteous. They're there to help. They have good customer service.
Nice.
All right. I'm going to bed.
Yeah. Me too. I need to go get some sleep and get
Good
ready
night,
for
everybody. Good night, minions. Good night,
good
chat room.
activity. Good night, chat room. Good night, everyone who's watching. Good night, co-hosts.
Good night, Moon.
That's right. Good night, nothing. That's my
Good night, Hadron Collider.
without the letters flipped around. Good night, you guys. Thanks so much for watching. Can't wait to see you guys from Portland. Bye.